If you clicked on this video, then you already know that these 10 Christmas candies once defined the holiday season in mid-century America. For decades, families gathered in warm kitchens to create brown sugar penuche fudge, classic divinity clouds, southern bourbon balls, and so many other treats that carried the true spirit of December. Each candy on this list represents a tradition that shaped the rhythm of the holidays, and each one has a story worth remembering. Today, I am bringing those stories back. You will hear how these candies were made, why they were treasured, and what made them disappear from modern tables. By the end of this video, you will understand how powerful these recipes were in creating family memories that lasted a lifetime. So stay with me, because every candy on this list reveals another piece of America's holiday history, and you do not want to miss any of them. Brown sugar penuche fudge. Imagine walking into a 1950s kitchen at Christmas time. The air is thick with the warm, rich scent of caramelized sugar and melting butter. On every countertop, families are stirring batches of brown sugar penuche fudge, a candy that was simple, sweet, and unforgettable. Unlike modern chocolate fudge, penuche relied entirely on brown sugar for its deep, creamy flavor. It is a candy that is not just about taste, it is about the ritual of creating something special from the humblest ingredients. Brown sugar penuche fudge has roots that trace back to New England kitchens, where housewives relied on brown sugar, butter, and milk instead of exotic chocolate. The technique is precise: sugar must dissolve slowly without burning, milk and butter must be blended carefully, and the mixture must be stirred until it reaches the perfect creamy stage. A single misstep can ruin the texture. But when done correctly, the result is a fudge that melts in the mouth and lingers on the tongue like a memory of a home filled with laughter. This candy became a symbol of generosity. Mothers and grandmothers wrapped it in wax paper, placed it in tins, and shared it with neighbors, teachers, and visiting relatives. In every bite, there was not just sweetness, but a story of tradition and community. Today, brown sugar penuche fudge has largely disappeared from American tables, replaced by commercial chocolates and mass-produced sweets. Yet, its charm endures for those who seek authenticity, nostalgia, and the comfort of a holiday past. Recreating this candy is more than a recipe, it is an act of remembrance. It reminds us that even the simplest ingredients, handled with care, can create something timeless, meaningful, and truly unforgettable. Classic divinity clouds. In the 1950s, no Christmas was complete without the ethereal sweetness of classic divinity clouds. These delicate, glossy confections were celebrated for their airy texture and their ability to melt instantly on the tongue. Unlike dense chocolates or chewy caramels, divinity relied on egg whites and sugar whipped to perfection, creating a candy that seemed lighter than air, yet packed with flavor and tradition. Divinity's origins date back to the early 20th century, where it became a holiday staple in southern and midwestern kitchens. Its appeal was as much visual as it was culinary. Families would pipe or spoon the sticky, glossy mixture into clouds on waxed paper, letting it dry into perfectly formed mounds that sparkled like freshly fallen snow. The candy required patience, as the sugar syrup had to reach the exact softball stage, while the egg whites needed careful whipping. One minor mistake could result in a sticky, failed batch, but when done correctly, the result was pure magic. This candy was never just about flavor. It carried emotion, tradition, and the pride of handmade craftsmanship. Mothers and grandmothers would package divinity in small boxes or tins, giving it as gifts that symbolized care and celebration. Each bite evoked family gatherings, laughter around the tree, and the comforting warmth of a kitchen during the holidays. Today, classic divinity clouds are rarely seen in modern confectionaries. Most home cooks have traded time-consuming candy for mass-produced alternatives, yet the charm of divinity endures. Recreating it is more than a culinary task, it is a journey into the past, a connection to generations who valued patience, skill, and the simple joy of sweet traditions. By reviving classic divinity clouds, we honor a candy that once floated on every American holiday table, reminding us that the most delicate creations often leave the most lasting impressions. Southern Bourbon Balls. In the heart of mid-century Southern kitchens, bourbon balls were more than a holiday treat, they were a symbol of hospitality, celebration, and family tradition. These rich, bite-sized confections combined crushed cookies, nuts, and just the right amount of bourbon, creating a candy that was indulgent, boozy, and unforgettable. Unlike simple sugar candies, bourbon balls carried a subtle warmth from the spirits, making them a festive highlight on any holiday table. The recipe has deep roots in Southern culture, where whiskey and bourbon were staple ingredients in both cooking and candy making. Grandmothers and mothers carefully mixed cookie crumbs, sugar, and chopped nuts before binding them with bourbon. The mixture was rolled into small spheres and often coated in powdered sugar or chocolate. Each step required precision. Too much liquid would make the balls soggy, too little, and they would crumble. The process demanded patience, but the reward was a candy that represented care, craftsmanship, and indulgence. These treats were not simply eaten, they were shared. Neighbors, relatives, and visiting friends would receive small tins of bourbon balls, making them a gesture of friendship and community. Each bite carried the spirit of the South, literally and figuratively, and reminded families of holidays filled with warmth, laughter, and connection. Today, Southern bourbon balls have become rare on modern holiday tables, overshadowed by store-bought chocolates and mass-produced sweets. Yet, for those who seek authentic flavor and nostalgia, they remain a treasured part of America's candy heritage. Reviving bourbon balls is more than a recipe. It is a step back into a kitchen where care and tradition mattered. It is a reminder that the holidays were once defined not by convenience, but by thoughtful preparation, shared joy, and the sweet, unmistakable taste of a candy crafted with love. Peppermint cream patties. In the 1950s, peppermint cream patties were a holiday essential, a candy that brought a refreshing contrast to the rich, heavy sweets of the season. These smooth, minty confections combined a creamy, sweet filling with a crisp chocolate coating, creating a balance of flavors that delighted children and adults alike. Unlike modern peppermint candies, these patties were handmade with care, offering a texture and flavor that mass production could never replicate. The origins of peppermint cream patties trace back to early American candy makers, who sought a lighter, festive treat that would brighten holiday tables. The filling required precise mixing of sugar, corn syrup, and peppermint extract, beaten until it reached a soft, airy consistency. Once formed into rounds, each patty was carefully coated in chocolate, creating a shiny, enticing exterior. Timing and temperature were crucial. Too warm and the chocolate would melt, too cold and it would crack. Beyond taste, peppermint cream patties carried a sense of celebration. Families would line their tables with neatly arranged tins of patties, offering them to neighbors, friends, and relatives as gifts. The candy symbolized care, skill, and the joy of giving. Each bite evoked memories of snowy evenings, holiday gatherings, and kitchens filled with laughter and the aroma of chocolate and mint. Today, peppermint cream patties are rarely seen in homemade form. Most are purchased pre-made, losing the charm and craftsmanship that made them special. Recreating them today is a journey into a past where candy was an expression of tradition and attention to detail. By reviving peppermint cream patties, we honor a candy that once brightened American holidays, reminding us that the simplest ingredients, combined with patience and care, can produce a treat that is timeless, delightful, and unforgettable. Vanilla opera creams. Vanilla opera creams were a luxurious treat on mid-century American holiday tables, celebrated for their smooth, creamy filling and delicate chocolate coating. Unlike simple hard candies, these confections offered a layered experience, a tender vanilla cream center wrapped in chocolate that melted slowly on the tongue, leaving a rich, lingering flavor that families cherished. The recipe for opera creams demanded skill and patience. Sugar and cream were carefully heated and blended with pure vanilla extract to create the soft, luscious filling. Once cooled, the filling was shaped into small logs or squares, then enrobed in chocolate. Temperature control was critical. If the chocolate was too warm, it would melt the cream, and if too cool, it would crack upon coating. The precision required reflected the care and craftsmanship that made these candies a symbol of festive elegance. Vanilla opera creams were often prepared weeks before Christmas, packaged in tins, and shared with friends, relatives, and neighbors. Each piece represented generosity, attention to detail, and a family's pride in creating something special by hand. In a time before mass-produced treats dominated the market, these creams were a mark of celebration and refinement. Today, vanilla opera creams are rarely made at home, replaced by boxed chocolates and factory-made sweets. Yet their charm remains, capturing the imagination of anyone who seeks authentic holiday flavors. Recreating them is more than a culinary task, it is an act of remembrance, connecting us to kitchens filled with laughter, meticulous stirring, and the aroma of melting chocolate. By reviving vanilla opera creams, we honor a candy that once elevated holiday celebrations across America. It reminds us that true sweetness is not only about sugar, but about patience, craftsmanship, and the joy of sharing something beautiful with the people we care about. Golden Seafoam Candy. Golden seafoam candy was a holiday marvel in mid-century American kitchens, admired for its delicate, bubbly texture and caramelized sweetness. Unlike ordinary toffee or fudge, seafoam candy was light, airy, and almost ethereal, created by carefully boiling sugar and syrup until it formed a golden foam that hardened into crisp, crackling pieces. It was a candy that delighted both the eyes and the taste buds. The process required precision and patience. Sugar, corn syrup, and a touch of cream of tartar were heated to the exact temperature to create the right consistency. Once ready, the mixture was poured onto a greased surface or buttered tins, then whipped and spread to form the signature foamy texture. The result was a candy that seemed fragile yet melted instantly in the mouth, leaving a buttery, sweet, and slightly nutty flavor. Timing, heat, and technique mattered greatly. One small misstep could ruin the delicate structure. Golden seafoam candy was more than a treat, it was a holiday tradition. Families would make batches to share with friends, neighbors, and extended relatives, often wrapping them in wax paper or cellophane for presentation. It symbolized care, craftsmanship, and the joy of creating something extraordinary from simple ingredients. The candy was often associated with excitement and anticipation, as children and adults alike would watch the foam rise and harden, eager to taste the finished product. Today, golden seafoam candy is rarely seen on American holiday tables, replaced by modern chocolates and confections. Yet, its charm endures for those who value tradition, skill, and nostalgia. Recreating this candy is a journey back into kitchens where patience and care were as important as flavor. By reviving golden seafoam candy, we preserve a piece of American holiday history, a candy that once sparkled on every festive table and continues to remind us that even the simplest ingredients can create wonder when handled with care. Old-fashioned pecan pralines. Old-fashioned pecan pralines were a cherished holiday candy in southern and mid-century American kitchens, celebrated for their rich, buttery sweetness and crunchy pecan texture. Unlike ordinary nut confections, pralines combined sugar, cream, and butter with toasted pecans to create a candy that was both decadent and comforting, a true labor of love for the holiday season. The recipe demanded precision and patience. Sugar and cream were boiled carefully to reach the proper stage, then combined with butter and toasted pecans. Timing was critical, too long or too short, and the mixture would not set correctly. Once prepared, spoonfuls were dropped onto wax paper to cool, forming imperfect but charming little clusters. The slight irregularity of each praline became part of their appeal, reflecting the handmade care and attention poured into every batch. Pecan pralines were more than candy, they were a statement of hospitality and generosity. Families wrapped them in wax paper or placed them in tins to give to friends, neighbors, and relatives during the holidays. Each praline carried warmth, tradition, and the unmistakable aroma of toasted nuts and caramelized sugar, inviting everyone to share in the joy of the season. Today, old-fashioned pecan pralines are increasingly rare on American holiday tables, often replaced by store-bought candies and mass-produced chocolates. Yet for those who seek authentic flavors and a connection to the past, pralines remain a treasured reminder of simpler times. Recreating old-fashioned pecan pralines is more than making candy, it is preserving a piece of history. It honors the skill, care, and love embedded in every cluster, reminding us that the most memorable sweets are crafted with patience, tradition, and an understanding that holidays are as much about sharing as they are about flavor. Molasses pull taffy. Molasses pull taffy was a staple of mid-century American holiday kitchens, known for its chewy texture, deep flavor, and the hands-on process that made it a festive family activity. Unlike modern candies, this treat relied on simple ingredients: molasses, sugar, butter, and a touch of vinegar, crafted with care to produce a taffy that was both sweet and slightly tangy, a flavor that lingered long after the first bite. The process of making molasses pull taffy required precision, patience, and strength. The molasses mixture was boiled to the exact stage, then poured onto a buttered surface to cool slightly. Families would then pull and fold the taffy repeatedly, stretching it until it became glossy, elastic, and soft. The repeated pulling incorporated air, lightening the candy and creating a silky texture that set it apart from ordinary molasses confections. It was a candy that demanded attention, skill, and a sense of timing. Molasses pull taffy was more than a sweet, it was an experience. Children and adults would gather around the kitchen counter to participate in the pulling, laughing as sticky strands stretched between fingers, and marveling at the transformation of dark, heavy syrup into shiny, pliable taffy. Each piece was then cut, wrapped, and shared, making it a symbol of togetherness, celebration, and care. Today, molasses pull taffy is rarely made in homes, often replaced by store-bought chewy candies. Yet its charm endures for those who seek the authenticity and nostalgia of holiday traditions. Reviving this candy is a journey into kitchens filled with warmth, laughter, and the aroma of molasses. It reminds us that some of the most memorable holiday treats are those crafted by hand, requiring patience, care, and the willingness to turn a simple mixture into something extraordinary. Coconut bonbon snowballs. Coconut bonbon snowballs were a festive highlight in mid-century American holiday kitchens, instantly recognizable for their snowy exterior and sweet, chewy center. Unlike other candies, these confections combined shredded coconut, sugar, and a soft cream filling, rolled into small spheres that were coated to resemble miniature snowballs. They were a visual delight as much as a flavorful treat. The preparation required care and attention. Coconut was toasted lightly to enhance its flavor, while the cream filling was whipped to the perfect consistency. Each bonbon was carefully shaped by hand, ensuring uniform size and texture. The final coating, often a dusting of powdered sugar or more coconut, gave the candies their signature snowy appearance. Every step required precision. Too much moisture could make the candies sticky, while insufficient sweetness would flatten their flavor. Coconut bonbon snowballs were more than candy, they were a tradition. Families would prepare batches in advance, placing them in tins to share with friends, neighbors, and visiting relatives. Each piece carried the spirit of generosity and care, making them a staple at holiday gatherings and a symbol of shared warmth. The sight and taste of these snowy confections often evoked memories of kitchens filled with laughter, children peeking at the treats before the holidays, and families creating something beautiful together. Today, coconut bonbon snowballs are rarely found on holiday tables, replaced by mass-produced chocolates and packaged sweets. Yet their charm remains for those who value tradition, craftsmanship, and nostalgia. Reviving these candies is more than recreating a recipe, it is a journey into a past where handmade treats defined the season. Coconut bonbon snowballs remind us that even the simplest ingredients, when handled with care, can create a holiday experience that is timeless, joyful, and unforgettable. Homemade butterscotch drops, script. Homemade butterscotch drops were a classic holiday treat in mid-century American kitchens, prized for their rich, buttery flavor and simple elegance. Unlike modern hard candies, these drops relied on real butter, brown sugar, and a touch of cream, creating a smooth, golden confection that melted slowly on the tongue. They were a candy that captured warmth, nostalgia, and the essence of home. The preparation required precision and attention. Brown sugar and butter were carefully melted together, often with a small amount of cream, and heated to the exact temperature needed for the candy to set properly. Timing and temperature were critical. Too low, and the drops would be soft and sticky; too high, and they could burn. Once ready, the mixture was spooned onto wax paper to cool, forming individual drops that were small, sweet, and perfectly shaped. Each step reflected the care and skill invested in holiday candy making. Homemade butterscotch drops were more than sweets, they were a gesture of love and tradition. Families would prepare batches to share with neighbors, friends, and relatives, often wrapping them in small tins or waxed paper. Each drop carried the flavor of nostalgia, the warmth of kitchens filled with laughter, and the simple joy of creating something by hand for loved ones. Today, homemade butterscotch drops are rarely made at home, replaced by pre-packaged candies and modern confections. Yet their appeal remains for anyone who values authenticity, craftsmanship, and the comforting taste of a holiday past. Reviving these candies is more than following a recipe, it is reconnecting with a tradition where simple ingredients, handled with care and patience, became something extraordinary. Homemade butterscotch drops remind us that even the smallest treats can leave a lasting impression, carrying the warmth, flavor, and memories of holidays gone by.